Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Andrew. So we're continuing with the series on entitlement. This video is going to be talking about what causes a person to be entitled. Now obviously there are probably thousands of different factors that all relate when we're talking about someone who's entitled and why they are what they are. So it's hard to nail down. I have read a bunch of articles and I've kind of compiled a bit of a list from those articles and also things that I've noticed with entitled people. And I'm going to kind of share that list with you. It's going to be very basic, not super in depth. I am going to go in depth in one particular area, and then I'm also my next video is going to be a bit of a conspiracy theory video for another reason as to why people are entitled. So that one should be fun. So let's get started. I should say before I start, actually, obviously, just because something's on this list doesn't mean it applies to everyone. Everyone reacts to different things differently, and so great example of this. Let's say someone gets caught stealing from a store, they get arrested, they get charged, but while in trial they're found not guilty because of a lack of evidence, for example. One person in that situation may think, you know what, I'm never stealing again, that was my lucky break, I'm not going to test fate or tempt fate again, that's it, I'm done. Whereas another person can say, oh yeah, I'm just going to keep robbing because now I know I can get away with it. So it really depends on the person and their psychology as well. I also think that it's different for all the different age generations, and I should say it's not like entitlement has only just started happening. Entitlement has been around for a very long time at this point. I think it has just increased significantly recently. Definitely within the last 10 and then specifically the last 5 years for sure, it has definitely gotten a lot worse. But I can remember my grandfather telling me stories from like the 40s. My grandfather, by the way, is 95, turning 96 in December. And he told me stories from the 1940s of people he knew that were entitled. So it's not like this is a brand new thing. This always existed, but it's just increasing as of late. So I think part of this entitlement, especially for the older generation, so I'm 35, and even now it's starting to become this for my generation as well. I've noticed it with some of my peers, but especially the older ones, like the baby boomers. They feel like it's their time now, they're in charge, they're the ones with the power, and so they then feel like because they're special, they deserve to get X, Y, Z. I don't actually believe most of them are in charge, and I don't believe anyone deserves X, Y, Z because they're special. It's only a small percentage of people who are actually in charge, and generally speaking, you may believe you have that power, but in reality, you do not. Another main reason is how people are treated by their parents and other authority figures. If a parent just gives you everything you want in life, you can become very, very spoiled. As a child, obviously, we've all seen these children out there. Those children can then become very entitled adults. And it's the same with authority figures, depending on how they deal with an individual throughout their life. I have personally, and I think we all have seen that child throwing that tantrum in the store, and then the mother or father giving in to everything that child wants because they're throwing a tantrum. First of all, if I threw a tantrum in a store when I was younger, it wasn't like I was going to get beat up or beat by my parents or anything like that. They didn't believe in that. But they would let me. They would let me until I just blew out, and they're like, nah, whatever, go ahead. You're embarrassing yourselves. You're not embarrassing me. and I was never like, it was a point of thing that, like, if you act like that, you do not get you don't get rewarded for negative behavior. I very quickly learned that it wouldn't get me anywhere, whereas other children, especially it seems more so now, where everyone is embarrassed for you if your child is having a tantrum, so you have to deal with it and just give in. That's not the way to parent, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. You may have a different one. That's cool. And next, certain life events can affect a person with entitlement. And what's interesting with life events, it can happen with both good and bad. So let's talk about good first. So if you have a bunch of life events happen to you and it makes you feel like you're special, you can start to feel entitled because you almost feel like you're bulletproof. I know a few people, even at my age, that really haven't had to deal with a lot of negative life events. And they have this sense of, well, nothing can go wrong because nothing has gone wrong. Obviously that's not true, and eventually they're going to get slapped with reality at some point, but that can cause it. Also, what can cause it, like I said, is if there were a lot of negative life events. So entitlement can be a type of attitude based in resentment, in order to compensate for past wrongs. Well, so like for instance, well, as a kid, I never had parents, so I should get this just as an example, and there are many examples of how that can do. Another one I think that is causing it, especially recently, is the idea of the increase in identity politics and echo chambers. If you are being told, oh, you're right because you believe this, then that means you're right, the other person is wrong, which means you're better than them, which means you deserve more than they do. A lot of people now, unfortunately, think like that. It's obviously not true, but a lot of people think that. Also, if you're listening to echo chambers all the time, it's only telling you, oh, see, I'm right, I know about this, I'm right, I'm the best, and then it's just like reinforcing that idea that you're better than them in some way, shape, or form. And this is true, by the way, for all forms of politics. Just to name off a couple, the religious people think they're better than the non-religious people because they're religious. The non-religious people think they're better than the religious people because they're non-religious. The vegans think they're better than non-vegans. The left thinks they're better than the right thinks they're better than the left. Just insert any politics, essentially, and you start to get very entitled people based on, well, I'm better than you and I know I'm the best, so I should get this. Also, media is playing a role in this too. Unfortunately, a lot of children are being raised with the babysitter of YouTube and the internet, and they are seeing and hearing things that they probably should not see and hear at that stage of development, which is, it's messing with their development. These are like, they're hearing about complex ideas that they can't essentially break down at their age, and then no one's really talking to them about it, no one's dealing with them about it. But not just that, on top of that, you get ads all the time now saying, you should get this because you deserve it. Well, why does anyone deserve it? No one really deserves anything unless they've earned it. But they play into that, you're special, get this thing, because, well, that's what people want to hear. Now, the big one I want to talk about is the breakdown of the nuclear family, and this is actually a bit of a double whammy at this point. So, a lot of people, my generation and younger, have dealt with families where there have been divorce, there have been a lot of family issues surrounding their family. Now, I do believe that it takes both parents to raise a child properly into an adult. There's an old saying, a mother makes a baby into a boy, and the father makes that boy into a man. And I do believe that a male needs a male role model, a female needs a female role model. If you're lacking one of those, although you can kind of step in as the other parent, it's just not. It just doesn't seem to work as well. Now, again, like I've said before, don't get me wrong, there are very well-adjusted single family children that I know, and there are very entitled that fit into that idea of a nuclear family. So, it's not a perfect thing, but what's interesting about this one is that there were, I would say, starting with my generation, although even more so as we get younger, we weren't raised so much to be parents. We weren't taught as much what it is to be a parent, either because our parents weren't there, or both parents were working and they weren't there. And so we didn't see as much of that parenting. And so now my generation and the earlier generations are trying to parent, and I don't think any generation knows what the hell they're doing when they parent generally, but I think it's even worse so. And so now you've got people who weren't parented trying to parent, and I feel horrible for those children. And just imagine when those children it's time for them to start parenting. It's just going to get worse and worse, in my opinion. I really do think a large reason for this whole growth and entitlement is that breakdown of the idea of a nuclear family. Or more specifically, having both a mother and a father present. But there you go, that's just my opinion. You may share my opinion, you may think it's something else. If you want, drop down in the comments and leave a comment on what you think is affecting this. Like I said, there is one other reason why I think this is increased lately, but it's more of a conspiracy theory, so I'm going to do it on its own video, and that will be the next video you see. So I will see you then. Bye-bye.